So, dear students, today we are going to begin with the cranial nerves. We know there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves which arise from the brain. And these cranial nerves, that is the first two cranial nerves, are along with the neuroanatomy topics. And the other cranial nerves, that is the oculomotor and all, we are going to deal today. Before going into this cranial nerves topic, we have to know one basic thing, that the cranial nerve nuclei which gives rise to these cranial nerves, they are mainly of two types. One is the motor type, that is cranial nerves are motor nuclei. The other variety is the sensory type. So let's classify this cranial nerve motor nuclei. So the classification of motor nerves are, the first one is somatic efferent. So I am classifying motor nuclei. First one is the somatic efferent. So the motor nerves are called as efferent. So motor nuclei constitutes the somatic efferent which supply the skeletal muscles. And the second type is special visceral efferent. Means the special means they are the skeletal muscles which are derived from the pharyngeal arches. So we know there are 6 pharyngeal arches, and fifth one will disappear and degenerate, and remaining 5 pharyngeal arches has got a muscular component, that is the mesoderm of it gives rise to muscles. So the skeletal muscles which are derived from the pharyngeal arches are supplied by special visceral efferent fibers. Muscles derived from and third type of motor nuclei is general visceral efferent. So general visceral efferent are the fibers form the parasympathetic pathway to supply the glands, smooth and cardiac muscles of visceral organs and heart. So they supply the glands, smooth muscles of visceral organs and cardiac muscles of heart. So this is how we classify the motor nerve nuclei. Let's talk about the classification of sensory nerves which arise from the sensory nerve nuclei. So sensory nuclei, the first variety is general visceral afferent. So sensory we call them as afferent and motor as efferent. So here the general visceral afferent, the sensory nerve fibers, they carry the general sensations from the viscera, which includes pain and reflex sensations from the visceral organs. Reflex sensations like hunger reflex, micturition reflex, defecation reflex, bronchospasm, that is a spasm in the bronchus, and peristaltic movements of the intestine, vasoconstriction of the blood vessels. So all such reflex responses are carried by general visceral afferent. So general visceral afferent, they carry the visceral senses like pain and reflexes. Next variety is general somatic afferent. General somatic afferent carry the general sensations from the body wall. Somatic means body wall. So they carry the general sensations from the body wall like parietal layers, like parietal pericardium, parietal layers of the pleura, and parietal layer of the peritoneum, and cutaneous receptors, all these. And they carry senses which are associated with touch, pain, temperature, and even texture discrimination, 2-point discrimination. So all these are carried by general somatic afferent. General somatic afferent, they mainly general sensations from where? From body wall. That is parietal layers. Next about the special somatic afferent. Special somatic afferent. They carry the smell, vision, auditory, and vestibular senses, and also taste sensations. So all these the special senses, they are carried by special somatic afferent. So olfaction, smell, that is smell, and vision, even auditory hearing, vestibular senses, taste sensation. Taste sensation from the tongue and the other parts of the oral cavity. So all these are the different varieties of motor nuclei and cranial nerve nuclei which gives rise to our 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Okay, let's talk about the third cranial nerve, that is the oculomotor nerve. Oculomotor nerve, it is the nerve which is responsible for the eye movements of the eyeball. So majority of the extraocular muscles which are present around the eyeball, they are all supplied by the oculomotor nerve. It is not only supplying these extraocular muscles, oculomotor nerve is also associated with the constriction of the pupil and accommodation reflexes. So let's talk about this oculomotor nerve in detail. So to identify the oculomotor nerve in the base of the brain, so here is the base of the brain. Oculomotor nerve is our third cranial nerve. So they are numbered from anterior to posterior. So this is the first one, olfactory, optic, and let's see now the third, which is of our today's topic interest. This is the third cranial nerve. We can see it is arising from the brain. It arises from the interpeduncular fossa. Along with the third cranial, fourth cranial nerve is also present, which is a very thinnest or a slender cranial nerve. So it is hard to discriminate both. But here we can identify this as the third cranial nerve on each side. So talking about the functional components of third cranial nerve, it has got general somatic efferent. General somatic efferent. Efferent means motor. So we know already somatic means they carry the efferent to the skeletal muscles. So they arise from the chief nucleus of motor nerve, supply all the extraocular muscles of the eye, excluding three muscles which are present around the eyeball. So those three muscles are levator palpebrae superioris, supplies extraocular muscles, except levator palpebrae superioris, superior oblique, we say SO4 because it is supplied by fourth cranial nerve. Then LR6, that is the lateral rectus, which is supplied by the abducens nerve. So except these three, rest all the extraocular muscles are supplied by the oculomotor. So origin of this is general somatic efferent. The next variety of functional component is the general visceral efferent. General visceral efferent arise from Edinger-Westphal nucleus, which is a separate nucleus present along with the oculomotor nucleus called as Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Edinger-Westphal nucleus, and the fibers from a component of this oculomotor nerve, they form a component of oculomotor nerve to terminate in a ganglion, which is a parasympathetic ganglion present within the orbit called as ciliary ganglion, which I am going to discuss little more in detail later. So the postganglionic fibers from this ciliary ganglion, they supply the ciliaris muscle and sphincter pupillae muscle. So that is about the third cranial nerve functional components. Let's talk about the nuclei which give origin to the oculomotor nerve. Oculomotor nerve nuclear complex, it is located around the aqueduct of Sylvius. So the cavity which is present in the midbrain is the aqueduct of Sylvius. So this is a schematic representation of the cross section of the midbrain at the level of superior colliculus. We see the origin of oculomotor nerve at the level of superior colliculi of midbrain. So the cavity of the midbrain, what we see this triangular like is here, which is called as cerebral aqueduct or aqueduct of Sylvius. So this is the aqueduct which contains a CSF. So around the aqueduct there is a grey matter which contains the nuclei called as periaqueductal grey matter. So what we see in blue color here is periaqueductal grey matter. So the oculomotor nuclear complex, it is present within this periaqueductal grey matter that is at the level of superior colliculus. And the components of the oculomotor nuclear complex, it is containing two. One is the motor nucleus of oculomotor. So we can see this one which is darker. This is the motor nucleus of oculomotor, that is the third cranial nerve. And a little laterally on each side there is a separate nucleus called as Edinger-Westphal nucleus. So this purple one, what is laterally present is the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, which is present within the oculomotor nuclear complex. So if we see the nuclei here, the right and left motor nuclei, they are very closely associated, almost present near the midline. They are joined in the midline, and the Edinger-Westphal nucleus present on each side. And they both give rise to this nerve, which is the oculomotor nerve. So the oculomotor nerve, it arises ventrally from the midbrain. So this part of the midbrain is called as crus cerebri, and each lower half except the tectum of the midbrain, it is called as cerebral peduncle. So each half except the tectum is called as cerebral peduncle. So what is the peduncle? It is like a stalk. Cerebral peduncle, because the white matter which is descending from the brain, they pass through this crus cerebri, that is corticospinal tracts, corticonuclear tracts, corticopontine tracts. All these fibers, they are bundled in the crus cerebri, which is otherwise called cerebral peduncle. So we can see here in this picture the oculomotor nerve here, it is arising medial to the crus cerebri, medial to the cerebral peduncle. So the gap here between the two crus cerebri, this gap is nothing but the interpeduncular fossa, because it is between the two peduncles. It is the interpeduncular fossa. And we can see the oculomotor nerve arising from the midbrain and present within the interpeduncular fossa. So it is a content of the interpeduncular fossa. And this fossa, it is associated with a cistern, subarachnoid cistern. So this fossa, the whole brain is covered by the meninges. So the arachnoid matter is a layer of meninges, and which covers the brainstem. So the gap between the arachnoid matter, suppose I am drawing an arachnoid matter here. So this gap which is between the arachnoid matter and pia matter is the subarachnoid space, which is called as interpeduncular cistern. So this one is interpeduncular cistern. Why I am talking about this interpeduncular cistern? Because it contains important blood vessels present around it, which is called as circle of Willis. So within the cistern there is a circle of Willis which supply the most of the brain, and this circle of Willis, it is often associated with some aneurysms, aneurysm. So if there is a rupture of any blood vessel leading to hemorrhage, so the nerve which first gets affected is the oculomotor nerve. So because the oculomotor nerve, we can see it is present as a content of interpeduncular system present within the interpeduncular fossa. So that is one of the clinical importance at its origin of the oculomotor nerve. So let's talk about some nuclear connections of the oculomotor nerve. Nuclei which are connected to this third cranial nerve, it is connected to the brain stem by corticonuclear fibers. So the nuclei are connected to the corticonuclear fibers from the opposite cerebral cortex and superior colliculi. From the oculomotor nerve, there are connections to the superior colliculi. This is the superior colliculi, and which is related to a nucleus present in front of the tectum called as pretectal nucleus. So the pretectal nucleus is present in front on each side of the superior colliculi. So the connections are to the pretectal nucleus also, and there is a bundle called as medial longitudinal fasciculus. In short, we can say it as MLF. Medial longitudinal fasciculus, MLF, which is a interconnecting bundle which connects the third, that is the oculomotor nerve, which we are studying now, and the third to the other cranial nerves like fourth trochlear, sixth abducent, and also connects to the eighth vestibulocochlear nerves. So these cranial nerve nuclei are interconnected by means of medial longitudinal fasciculus. So these are the nuclear connections of the oculomotor nerve. Continuing with the course of the oculomotor nerve, we can divide the course into intraneural course, that is the course of the oculomotor nerve within the midbrain, and the course of the oculomotor nerve within the cranium, that is called intracranial course, and further the oculomotor nerve enters the superior orbital fissure to enter the orbit. So further we can consider as intraorbital course. So starting with intraneural course, the course of the axons inside the midbrain, so after their origin from the nuclei, passes ventrally. So we can see here the red color line is the oculomotor nerve, and it crosses the nuclei which are called as red nucleus. So we can see on each side two red nuclei which is crossed by the oculomotor nerve. And medial part of substantia nigra. So this green one represents the substantia nigra. So we can see it crosses the substantia nigra also. So medial part of the substantia nigra, and further it emerges from the ventral part of the midbrain, crossing the medial part of cerebral peduncle. So we can see here it emerges from the medial side of the midbrain within the interpeduncular fossa, crossing the ventral side of the crus cerebri. So this is about the intraneural course. So let's talk about the intracranial course. In the subarachnoid space, the oculomotor nerve lies between the posterior cerebral artery and superior cerebellar artery. As I discussed just now, that oculomotor nerve, it is present in the interpeduncular fossa, and within the interpeduncular system there is circle of Willis, right? So the basilar artery which terminally divides into posterior cerebral artery, which is a part of circle of Willis. So the oculomotor nerve, so here it is, this is the midbrain. So the oculomotor nerve which is arising on the ventral side of the midbrain is the third cranial or oculomotor nerve. And as it comes out of the midbrain, running towards the superior orbital fissure, it enters through the cavernous sinus. So I am just writing. So we see the oculomotor nerve arising from the midbrain. Okay. And further it runs anteriorly towards the superior orbital fissure. Then it enters inside the cavernous sinus. So it is present within the lateral wall of cavernous sinus. So before entering into this cavernous sinus, it is related to posterior cerebral artery and superior cerebellar arteries. So on each side. So the nerve is between these two arteries. One is the posterior cerebral artery and this is the superior cerebellar artery. Posterior cerebral and superior cerebellar arteries, they are the branches of basilar artery. So we know it is the circle of Willis which is around it. So it is sandwiched between these two arteries, which is in closely relation with the posterior communicating artery also. Further, we can see it enters into the lateral wall of cavernous sinus. So as it is closely related to these arteries, aneurysm of any of these related arteries may result in the compression of oculomotor nerve. And it crosses the tentorial notch. Further, if we see this oculomotor nerve, it crosses the tentorial notch to enter the lateral wall of cavernous sinus, and within the lateral wall of cavernous sinus, it lies superior to the other cranial nerves, that is the trochlear nerve, ophthalmic, maxillary nerve. So one thing we have to note here, whatever the nerves which are towards the superior orbital fissure, we see them crossing this cavernous sinus, which is a dural venous sinus present on each side of the sphenoid bone. So the oculomotor nerve, it crosses the lateral wall of cavernous sinus. As it is the third, it lies above to fourth cranial, that is the trochlear. So it is related here to the trochlear, and beneath the trochlear it is related to the ophthalmic division of trigeminal and also maxillary division of trigeminal. So these are the nerves present within the cavernous sinus, lateral wall of cavernous sinus. So tentorial notch is the vulnerable site of the oculomotor nerve, causing the compression due to cavernous thrombosis and herniation of the uncus. So that is a vulnerable site for the oculomotor nerve, causing its compression because of cavernous thrombosis, because the cavernous sinus is there. So if there is any clot present in the cavernous sinus, leads to cavernous thrombosis. And herniation of the uncus. Uncus is present in the base of the brain on each side of the cerebral peduncle, where the parahippocampal gyrus continues anteriorly as uncus. So if there is a herniation of uncus also, there may be a chance of compression of this oculomotor nerve. So that is about the intracranial course. Talking about its exit from the cranium, we know that it enters through the superior orbital fissure. So the oculomotor nerve enters into the superior orbital fissure. Just before entering into the superior orbital fissure, the oculomotor nerve divides into two ramus. So superior orbital fissure, if you see, it is further divided into three parts: lateral, intermediate and medial part. So the oculomotor nerve enters into the intermediate part, and where before entering itself it divides into two divisions, that is the superior and inferior rami of oculomotor nerve. So within the superior orbital fissure, it splits to form superior and inferior rami and enclosed within a common tendinous ring. So intermediate part is enclosed within a common tendinous ring, or common tendinous ring of Zinn, it is called. So along with this oculomotor nerve, there are other two nerves which are present within the common tendinous ring. The other two nerves are nasociliary nerve. So the other two nerves are nasociliary nerve, which is a branch of ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve, and the sixth cranial nerve, that is the abducens nerve. So that is how it enters the superior orbital fissure. So let's see in this picture now. This is the midbrain. We have seen the oculomotor nerve nuclear complex is here. This is the periaqueductal grey matter. This is the aqueduct of Sylvius. And here is the periaqueductal grey matter containing the oculomotor nerve nuclear complex. And we can see the oculomotor nerve, it arises from the ventral side of the midbrain, and then it lies in the interpeduncular fossa. And we can see an artery here, that is the internal carotid artery, which is present within the cavernous sinus. oculomotor nerve is along the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus, that we have to note here. So we can see here it is dividing into superior and inferior ramus. So this is the oculomotor nerve. This is the superior ramus and the other one is the inferior ramus. Inferior ramus. So superior ramus, we can see it goes, as the name suggests, it goes superior to the eyeball and supplies two muscles which are present superior, that is superior rectus muscle. So it is supplying the superior rectus. I am writing SR for superior rectus muscle. So it innervates the superior rectus muscle. So if we see its intraorbital course, the superior division runs lateral to the optic nerve to supply the superior rectus muscle, and one more muscle which lies superior to the eyeball, that is levator palpebrae superioris. So levator palpebrae superioris and superior rectus muscle. These two muscles are supplied by the superior division, that is the superior ramus of oculomotor nerve. And inferior division supplies the rest of the muscles, that is except lateral rectus and superior oblique, which are supplied by the other cranial nerves. So the inferior division divides further into three branches. One branch supplies to the medial rectus. So this is the cut part of medial rectus. And then it supplies to the inferior rectus muscle, which goes down. This is inferior rectus, and then it also supplies to inferior oblique muscle. This is the inferior oblique. So if we see the inferior oblique muscle, the nerve to the inferior oblique muscle, it gives off a branch which relays in the ganglion here. So we are seeing this one. This is the ciliary ganglion, and you can see a branch going there and relaying in the ciliary ganglion. So ciliary ganglion is a parasympathetic ganglion where it gives rise to short ciliary nerves. So this parasympathetic component, they arise from the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, which are part of a oculomotor nuclear complex. So this Edinger-Westphal nucleus, the axons from the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, they travel along with the rest of the oculomotor nerve to reach its destination, that is to reach its ciliary ganglion. And further, that is the postganglionic fibers, they form the short ciliary nerves which supply the ciliaris muscle and sphincter pupillae muscle. So the short ciliary nerves supply the ciliaris and sphincter pupillae muscle. So next about this ciliary ganglion. Ciliary ganglion is the peripheral parasympathetic ganglion, and it is located on the posterior side of the orbit. So we can see here, this is here is the ciliary ganglion, which is present on the posterior side of the orbit, which is sandwiched between the medial wall and the optic nerve posteriorly. So posterior part of the orbit is called as the apex of the orbit. So it is related to near the apex of the orbit. So ciliary ganglion, if we see its parasympathetic pathway, the nerve arises from Edinger-Westphal nucleus. So Edinger-Westphal nucleus. So Edinger-Westphal nucleus gives rise to preganglionic fibers. And preganglionic fibers run along with which nerve? Oculomotor nerve, that is the third cranial nerve. Further, the oculomotor nerve, that is the branch which goes to the inferior oblique. So that relays in the ciliary ganglion. So branch which goes to the inferior oblique, branch to inferior oblique muscle. So branch to the inferior oblique will form a preganglionic fibers which relay in the ganglion called as ciliary ganglion, which is a parasympathetic ganglion here, and which is a small pin shaped structure. like almost the size of a head of a pin it will be. Then ciliary ganglion gives rise to postganglionic fibers. Postganglionic fibers are the short ciliary nerves, and these short ciliary nerves they relay in the ciliary muscle. They supply the ciliaris muscle, and also it supplies sphincter pupillae muscle. Dilator pupillae is supplied by the sympathetic, which travel along the blood vessels, whereas the sphincter pupillae is supplied by the parasympathetic, which is supplied by the ciliary ganglion via the short ciliary nerves. So this is all about the ciliary ganglion parasympathetic pathway. Let's talk about the lesions of the oculomotor nerve. Oculomotor nerve can have unilateral and bilateral, but unilateral lesions it produces ptosis, drooping of the eyelid due to the paralysis of levator palpebrae superioris, and it also supplies external strabismus, that is the squint, due to the unopposed action of lateral rectus and superior oblique muscle, and protrusion of the eyeball due to the flaccid paralysis of most of the extraocular muscles, and diplopia, double vision, loss of accommodation, that is resulting a dilated and a fixed pupil. So these are the unilateral lesions, that is features of the unilateral lesions of oculomotor nerve.